Welcome to the Rebooting Business podcast, where we discuss how businesses can reboot, rebuild, and come back bigger and stronger than ever before in a post-COVID-19 reality. And now, here's your host, David Somerfleck.
And hello, my name is David Somerfleck. I'm a digital marketing specialist with about 20 years experience working for different agencies. Thank you for watching or listening another episode of Rebooting Business. I've kind of lost track, but I think this is probably episode number 23. And it's June 30th, 2020. My guest today is Matt Rouse from Hook SEO. Am I pronouncing everything correctly, Matt?
That's right.
Matt, we're going to get started with your business background first, and then kind of segue into some other questions I have for you. So can we please get started with basically who you are, your background, and how you came to be in your present circumstance with Hook SEO and what you do? It's kind of a broad, open-ended question.
Right. So I started way back in the 80s on working on bulletin board systems and 8-bit computers. And,
wow. You go back further than me.
I know. I had a multi-line phone line bulletin board system in British Columbia in 1984. So long way back when you could send like Usenet email and it took 2 days to get there.
Wow. I started my experience with the internet was in the mid 90s when Yahoo and Excite, and I think it was Alta Vista, were the bomb.
Right.
And we had to build websites with just HTML.
Right.
It would take weeks to create something
basic.
basic.
Like 106 tags to know, and that was everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you go from there to where you are right now with Hook SEO, and what do you do for them?
So in the 90s, I was doing technical support because cable modem technology had come out in Canada.
Yeah.
And then in that, I kind of worked my way up there and I started doing some web development work for the company that I worked for, as well as doing it on the side for other businesses. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where my agency originally kind of started off, is probably about, I think I built my first commercial site in about 1996, 97, somewhere in there. It was all keyword based stuff back then. You know, there wasn't search engines. It was just directories like Yahoo, right? And Excite.
Yeah.
And then there was also like GeoCities networks and that kind of stuff was coming out. There's no social media or anything then, right? Nobody had smartphones or anything, right?
Did they have Google Pipe? Was it, no, Yahoo Pipes? Or was that GeoCities?
It may have been. It might have been named differently because I was in Canada at the time. And a lot of the stuff was kind of regional carriers, right?
Yeah, I always felt like Yahoo got a raw deal. They really could have adapted.
They could have.
Yeah, I think they could have.
All of the money and all of the talent, and then somehow they still managed to not do well.
Yeah. It was just, if there was a company that I would have purchased if I could have before Melissa Meyer got in there, it was Yahoo.
They had that.
I really think they could have turned it around.
They had that model for their advertising that was based on like the television media buying model. Yeah. And I think that was their downfall. They couldn't wrap their head around doing it a different way.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there were some other stumbles along the way.
They spent a lot of money they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think they could have acquired Google too at some point. I'd have to look back on things. So when you work with businesses, who do you usually work with and in what areas?
So we're pretty well diversified because my company is actually a merger of two previous businesses. So I was running a web design and search marketing firm. My business partner was running an e-commerce agency where they did merchant processing and e-commerce, and we merged them in 2014. So we don't have like a specific niche of businesses we work with because we kind of had clients all over the board already.
Mm-hmm.
So our clients tend to be more geographically centered than anything else. So we have a whole bunch of clients around the Portland and southern Vancouver, Washington kind of area. My business partner lived in Arizona, so we have a bunch of Arizona clients. And then we also had some clients of ours who moved to Hawaii. So we've got a whole bunch of clients in Hawaii now too. So it was pretty much grew by a combination of SEO, of course, and referral. So we did a lot of local SEO work, so we have more local clients. And then we have a lot of referral clients, so we have some kind of scattered around.
Do you worry? I don't know if worry is the correct word. How do you differentiate your offerings from so many competitors? And obviously you know all about that.
Yeah. Our differentiator is that we work a specific plan together to act as a marketing department for our company. So if they are not big enough to have their own marketing department, or maybe they only have like 1 or 2 people in their marketing department and they need to augment that,
right?
Then we're going to come in with an ROI based solution to say, it doesn't matter what kind of digital marketing you need. We either have access to the people or we have the people in-house to get all of the jobs done and handle it as a marketing department for the company. Okay. So a good example is we have a lot of companies that work with us who sell things to real estate agents. So they don't sell real estate, but they sell things to real estate agents like marketing materials and stuff like that, and mortgage brokers and title companies and stuff like that. It's kind of our sort of, I guess, the closest thing to an e-commerce niche that we have. But those businesses generally tend to have production staff. So they're more of a manufacturer than a marketing company, right? So we come in and we do the technical side of the marketing for them. We set up sales funnels and search engine optimization and email marketing channels and make sure that their Facebook ads and Instagram ads and catalog based ads are all running, and basically just building out all the things that you would expect. Generally, you would have to have more than one agency to do for you.
Right.
So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
How would you explain, because the economy isn't doing so well in the US and in many other countries. So a lot of businesses are focused on trying to grow quickly or maybe equalize things. How do you explain the ROI for digital marketing or SEO, since it is an intangible? How do you explain that ROI concept to them?
There's always going to be some things that you can't measure, but you should be able to measure by channel. So you can, like, if you're going to measure stuff, you can take all of the things that you can measure and you can kind of subtract those from the things you can't measure. And that should give you another result. So a good example would be attribution is a big problem in the marketing world, right? So if somebody sees maybe a video or something or an ad on Facebook for your ad for a product that you have, and then they see another one when they're on Instagram because you're retargeting them, and then they also saw one on Google, and then they end up typing it in, something about the product, and they see an article about it that you wrote, and they go through to the article, and then they go buy something from your store. Now, Facebook is going to say that it was the ad that on Facebook that made the sale, but Google's also going to say it was their ad that made the sale, and your store, your Shopify, or whatever it is going to say the person came from an SEO related search, right?
Yeah. So what do you do?
All of those. So usually what you want to do is there's going to be a percentage of overlap. You kind of have to estimate the amount of overlap you're going to get. I would say generally it's going to be about 20% overlap if you're running ads on multiple platforms. And you can kind of subtract that. An easy way to test, and this is a tough one right now, but what you can do is if you're not 100% sure, you can drop the ad spend by a certain percentage. So say you're doing $2,000 a month on Facebook and $2,000 a month on Google. You can drop your Facebook ad spend $1,000 for a week. And if you don't see any dip, then you're not getting a good return, right, from your Facebook ads. But of course, you don't want to lose your sales. So another way that you can do that is also by looking at your marketing as a whole and just saying the entire campaign brings out this ROI. And
that's usually the way I go. That's usually the direction I go in.
If you look at, like, so here's the thing that's interesting is if you have one company doing your Facebook ads, you got another company doing your email marketing, or maybe you're doing that in-house, you got another SEO company on board, right? Each of them is going to try and attribute the maximum amount of sales to what they're doing because they want it to look as good as possible for them. If you have one company doing all of the work, all they're trying to do is get you the maximum ROI regardless of where it comes from, right? So a good example would be if you run a Facebook ad at the same time that you're running an email marketing campaign and the image or the information that's in those match, you generally get a 10% sales boost from running those at the same time. But that's not something that you can detect really if people are doing it differently, because both people are going to say that it was their ads or it was their email marketing that made that 10% boost. So then you never know which one it was. It's actually both of them working together that gives you the boost.
Right. And I agree. And it's either working or it's not working to some extent. When we talk about intangibles, another question I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with the budget question? I mean, obviously everybody's going to deal with it differently. The way I deal with it is going to be different from you. What I would do would be different as one person. So how do you deal with that inevitable budget question? How much is this? How much is that? Like they're shopping for kumquats as opposed to, I want to achieve this objective.
Right. So the best way I think to do it is to figure out, I mean, you're going to have to get some information back from your clients. And a lot of times they don't want to give up some of that information.
Yeah, like, I noticed
what is the margin on a product, right? But if you take the average sale and the margin, right, that they have, you should be able to determine a number there, right?
Yeah.
That number is kind of pre-tax, pre-hard cost profit that's in that product. And then how much sales do they expect to have, right? If they say, well, we need to be doing 100 units a month, well, I just multiply whatever that number is times 100. And then how much do you need? Like, what's the most you could spend to acquire a customer and still make money? If that's 50% of that number, then that's the budget. So the person who can spend the most and still make money is the one who wins in a world where ads are created by an auction, right? So that's Google pay-per-click, that's Facebook, that's all these places, right? It's always an auction. So if you can win the auction to get the best clients, then you have the most chance of making the sales, and then you have the most chance of making money. So it's not how cheap can I run ads, it's how much can I spend.
And get the best results and the best outcomes.
Right.
Yeah, and as Gary Vaynerchuk says in almost every single video that he ever does, he keeps saying over and over again, now is the time to do this while Facebook is still affordable.
Yeah, it just got a lot more affordable in the last couple of days.
Yeah, and it's
Unilever and Coca-Cola and Starbucks and these companies and Lululemon all are doing this Facebook boycott.
Yeah,
over them, about fake news and political speech and stuff on the platform.
Their shares. I mean, he's lost a lot.
Yeah, but I also, I don't want to come across with any kind of political talk or anything, but small businesses right now, like actual small businesses, your Main Street businesses, your service providers, kind of, small 10, 15 person or less kind of e-commerce, that kind of stuff. Those people have been hurting right now. Yeah. And people should not be out there yelling at them to boycott it, right? Some like Coca-Cola spends like $1 billion a year on Facebook. It would take 1,000 small businesses spending $1 million each to equal one Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those businesses need a break. You gotta lay off the small businesses, people.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I think it's more incumbent upon Facebook really to adapt and say, look, if someone posts an ad that incites violence, we are going to take that down. I think that's
they do to a point already. The problem is they didn't kind of take it far enough. They didn't put enough money into it. And they could have. And I mean, I've been saying this honestly for years. They have people that take down like, violence against animals posts and things about, of a sexual nature on the platform and stuff like that. The people are already in place to do those things to get rid of that stuff. And their algorithms do a reasonably good job at getting rid of that stuff, even though there's a lot of false positives too. But, it's kind of trade-off, right, of what you get with the platform. But they should have dumped way more money into it. I mean, can you imagine if they put $100 million into having more policing on the platform to make sure they're getting rid of this stuff versus the $5 billion stock drop?
That's exactly. And it goes right back to the whole concept of ROI to solve what could have been a potentially larger problem and not did turn out to be a much larger problem. So hopefully they'll nip that one in the bud and take the appropriate action. In light of what
you're making the ad cost go down right now, though.
Yeah. So I mean,
advertise, now's the time, people.
Yeah. And I mean, whereas LinkedIn, I don't think that's gone down a penny. But yeah, exactly. You can be very surgical with Facebook advertising. And the whole point was that it was affordable before and it's more affordable now. Zuckerberg is not an idiot. He's going to come back and say, whoa. Okay, people, I'll do what you want me to do.
Right.
And then the shares will go up again. He's not a fool. So it's always incumbent upon people, especially business owners, to invest if they want to get more back. So let's take the typical small business owner. How would they know what their SEO should be and what their SEO expectations should be? Because you have so many of these small business owners and individual service providers going to Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, and most of these websites have no SEO at all, or they have inappropriate SEO. How do you advise them, or do you advise them?
I would say the easiest thing to kind of start with as a business owner is here's what the test that usually they do. They type in their name of their business into a search engine from when they're in their office, which is obviously not a good test because all that's going to do is bring up their map location because they're the closest point to that business.
That's exactly true.
Right. But if you do that and you don't show up, you got a really serious problem, right? That's something you need to fix right now.
Yeah, I actually went to go speak at a law firm, and my wife and I were driving to the law firm. I took out my phone. I said, I can't remember where they're located. Took out my phone, looked them up on the phone. They didn't come up.
Right. That's a problem.
This is a major law firm. They didn't come up. And when I went there to go speak at the presentation, I was very grateful, very happy to go there. And I said to someone there, I said, did you know that you don't even show up on Google Maps? And if you don't show up on Google Maps, you don't show up in Google My Business. He said, oh, we have somebody working on it. Okay, let me back off.
Oh, somebody working on it. How long does it take, honestly?
20 minutes?
I mean, unless you got unless they got banned or something, then it takes forever. But,
yeah.
I mean, here's the thing that people don't understand and this is on pretty much any platform, not just Google, but if you get blocked or something, right, or your ad gets disapproved or they disapprove of something, right, like you're on Yelp and somebody leaves you a review for a different business or something, some fake negative review, you flag it and they say no, they're going to keep it up. That's just the first no. Mm-hmm. Their systems are designed to say no by default, right? Yeah. If you want to try and do something, they're like, no. And then you go after, like you call support or you get on the support chat or you flag it again or whatever it is, right? I mean, I have a client right now who sell things to real estate agents, but because their domain name has the word real estate in it, every single ad they get gets flagged to say that this is for housing opportunity, and it gets disapproved. And I have to go into Facebook VIP chat support every single time I make an ad for them, which is 7 or 8 times a week, to get it reapproved.
It is costing them so much more in the long run that way too.
Right. But the Facebook and almost any platform says, we don't want to get in trouble, so we're just going to blanket disapprove everything that has any possibility of getting us in legal problems.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, we'll review them on a one-on-one basis if someone complains. So you got to complain. Otherwise, you're not going to get your stuff approved. But yeah, let's go back to the original question, though. So the easiest thing to test SEO for your business is think about and maybe talk to some people and ask them, people who are not in your industry, not related to your office or your business. Ask them, if you were going to try and find my service, what would you type in to try and look for it? Right. So say,
right. Yeah.
Right. If you have a plumbing company or something, right? Someone's not going to put in like certified plumber for, whatever, right? They're going to be like, someone to fix pipe issue or, something like that, right? They're going to type in some kind of problem that they have, or, electrician to fix circuit breaker. Those are the kinds of things they're going to type in. So you want to type those things in. And if your business doesn't show up, then you have an SEO problem, because people are typing that in. They can't find you. If somebody's typing in like emergency plumber Hillsboro and you don't show up, then you're invisible. None of those people who type that in will ever see you.
Yeah. I always think that SEO starts locally and then grows from there. Unless you already have a company like Coca-Cola or Disney, in which case, obviously, it's either a national or global powerhouse. But most businesses are local, or they start locally. They have to. I mean, do you agree with that?
Prominence is a big part of it. So prominence is how prominent is your company, right? So if you were to go on Google My Business, you open a burger and French fry shop and you put it next to a McDonald's, and you guys were both built them on exactly the same time, put them both on the map side by side, and somebody types in hamburger, McDonald's is going to come up before you because McDonald's as a company is more prominent.
Right.
So like all things equal, it's not equal. You're on a lower footing against companies who have big brand name. So you want to make sure that you are branding, right? You're doing those things that you need to build your brand, which is press releases and getting lots of positive reviews on multiple platforms, and people are talking about it outside of just, your own spaces on the internet. Especially, local news coverage, things like that. Those can all improve your prominence. But then you also need to be on directories, and you need to make sure your name, address, phone number, they call those NAP citations. Your name, address, phone, and website are all consistently everywhere on the internet, on the white pages and the yellow pages and decks and all these places, and info group. And there's a lot of things to consider. And it's not a task you should be doing yourself, honestly. I mean, going into Google My Business and setting it up, you can fill out a form, you can do it. Can you do it well? Probably not. But at least you can get on the map. Yeah.
And even a bare basic entry into Google My Business can start attracting new leads, whether they're customers or clients or donors for a nonprofit organization or patients for clinic. Just being listed in Google My Business in and of itself can actually attract a good many new customers.
But then they forget to do Bing Places.
Yeah.
Which is like 15% of the market, right?
Is it really?
I guess
I thought it was
live out here. It is where you have a lot of tech workers, because they have Edge is automatically installed on everybody's office computer, with Windows.
Well, that's true. I think older consumers use Bing. I remember reading that.
Or they might use MSN Network, which is driven by Bing.
Yeah.
Yahoo Places pulls from Bing now as well.
Yeah.
But also then Apple Maps. So if somebody's on their iPhone, which is I think 25% of cell phones, something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They still use Apple Maps instead of Google Maps. That's another place you got to put your business, or people won't be able to get directions to it.
Yeah, those are
Right.
all very, very good points.
And that's just local. What if you don't have a store? Now you have a whole new ball game. Right?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the whole larger point why the free DIY approach doesn't seem to gain traction for most of these small business owners, because they don't know what they don't know. And some tools are better for some than others, I guess. I don't know if that's a fair statement. How do we as digital marketing professionals talk with clients about how to stop focusing on budget and price and try to get them to put long-term goals and value of achieving those goals into perspective, to see digital marketing ROI and SEO as a worthy investment, if they don't already?
Yeah, you need to it's hard to get businesses who are transactional to start thinking about lifetime value for clients and say, how much can I spend to acquire a customer who's going to be a long-term repeat customer for my business versus how much can I spend and still make money when someone buys something?
Yeah, I think.
And those are two completely different math problems, right? And the companies who spend to acquire a customer based on the lifetime value of a customer versus the transactional value or the first transaction of a customer tend to do they're around longer and they are more profitable. But you also have a problem where a lot of small businesses, they can't really afford to spend marketing dollars on things that are not going to generate revenue fairly quickly.
And they may not know. They may not know what that would be.
And so there's a good plan is to use kind of a mixed approach where you're trying to build some search optimization, maybe optimizing their website for conversions is a good place to start. And doing those things, but doing a little bit of advertising at the same time. So you can kind of dabble in more than one kind of channel at the same time. Get them building that mailing list up and get their website better for conversions to convert more customers, and make sure that they're found on the map or in search, and just kind of getting those starting points done, and then building a long-term plan of how are we going to scale all of this. And then how quickly can we scale it is another question, because I'll tell you a quick story. We had a client a few years ago, and they said, yeah, we can handle all the business we can get, yada, yada, yada. And we started running some ads and stuff for them, and it went really, really well. And then within about a week or so, we started seeing negative comments start to pop up that they don't answer the phone, and I ordered this and they never delivered it. And, we've been waiting for this to happen. And that kind of then started to tank their ads, because then people are putting negative comments on their advertising. And, so they couldn't handle the amount of business. So you need to be able to not only be able to scale your marketing, but you have to be able to scale your fulfillment of your product or service at the same time, right? And there may be some point where maybe you're an HVAC company and you can do 20 calls a week, but then you could add another crew. But if you're going to add another crew, you got to buy tools and a truck and hire people and all of those things, right? So, you need to be able to schedule out, maybe say, okay, we're going to spend a little bit more on marketing because we're already full. We've got more than our 20 a week we can handle, but we don't have another crew yet. But maybe you could start booking 3-4 weeks out for those people who are coming in now, and have that ready for when you've got another truck and another people hired and stuff like that. So, or if you have, inventory, then maybe there's an additional supplier you could get, like an overflow supplier. Maybe you could switch which product is your lead product, so there's different things you can do to kind of get scale. The nicest thing is if you've got things like print to order or digital products like coaching and courses and things like that, then there is no problem scaling, right? Because once you create it, you can create as many as you want.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at, there's so many different types of digital marketing, from email automation, there's PPC across the board with Facebook ads, Google ads, and YouTube and so on. Is there one that you would say, in your opinion, is the most impactful? If we were going to put so much ad spend into this area?
I mean, I know that everybody hates the answer that it depends, but it depends, right? And a lot of it is going to depend on your product. So a good example would be so we have a company that we do some work with that sells kind of custom made chocolates, and they're all handmade, fancy kind of chocolates.
I had somebody just like that like 10 years ago. I don't even know if they.
So pay-per-click's not a good option for them generally, because people aren't already searching for that. They don't know the wording behind some of the things that are in their chocolates or what the combinations and stuff. But if we use something like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and Pinterest ads, we can show it to people who we think would be interested in it.
Right. And Pinterest is going to attract people who are more visually oriented, who are already specifically looking for items based on how they appear.
Right. Because now if it's something like you're an emergency plumber, like we talked about earlier, then you're going to want to use pay-per-click ads and maybe some Google Smart ads so that they show up on the map and stuff like that. Because what happens is people want it right now. Yeah. They can't just wait for a Facebook ad to show up for a plumber at some point, someday. They're like, I need a plumber because my, toilet is leaking into my baseboards or something, right? And, there's water coming out of the wall. I need somebody here right now. So that's when the pay-per-click would come in, because as soon as they type in emergency plumber, hopefully your ad comes up first, and they can give you a call and bing. Yeah.
Well, I think, I think the trick is again, the whole starting with local SEO, the offset, and even maybe blogging about challenges in a local demographic. When we talk about old school marketing approaches with billboards, bus signs, print ads, do you think most of the business owners you see still engage in that, or has the spend in that declined over time?
I mean, all of that has declined. There's a few exceptions. Hyper-targeted magazine advertising still does pretty well. So a good example is there's a magazine locally here called Portland Real Producer that only goes to the top 500 real estate agents in our market. And it has ads for things like people who repair chimneys or foundations or, that kind of stuff. They do really well. I mean, the ads at the magazine do really well because they're read by the people who are in the target demographic. But they also kind of back that up with events. So they have events like meet and greet events. So you can meet the people who are the advertisers in the magazine, right? They did until recently, right?
Yeah, we used to call that farming. That's what they used to call it, creating a farm to attract the type of clients or customers that you want. But like you said, you can't really do that now unless you don't care. But you could do it online.
It'll probably ease up, right? Unless, God forbid, there's some other worse version of the flu comes out or a different kind or something. But, hopefully they'll be able to ease restrictions at some point. But I think like digital billboard, there is a thing in digital billboards called remnants, where you can buy the unused digital billboard time. And at that price, it's great. I mean, I wouldn't spend $2,000 a month on a billboard, but I'll spend, $800 a month on a billboard, right? If it's for the right kind of business. So if it's a show, like a theater or something like that, hopefully there's theater again coming soon. Attorneys for, car accidents and DUIs and things like that. Anywhere where you want to keep repeating the message over and over and over and over and over and over. Billboards are good for that. Nobody's really looking at billboards that much anymore from cars and stuff, but we do still get them, especially when we use billboards that are across the street from like a coffee shop or something like that. It seems to work really well because people are sitting in the coffee shop and they see the billboard. But again, we're only buying the unused billboard time and using that for our clients. We don't just call up the billboard company and say, give me this one on Highway 26 because, they want $2,000 to $5,000 for that billboard and it's not worth it. But at $800, it's worth it.
Yeah. And if it can generate 5 new sales per month or something, then you're making back double or triple or quadruple what the investment.
Yeah, it's all going to tell. So if you're a defense attorney, right, and it's a large settlement case because there was a car accident or something like that. I mean, it could mean $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to the firm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can run billboards for the rest of your life for $300,000. Right. So, as long as there's ROI in it, but I mean, that's not the first thing we're doing. Right. So we're running, Facebook, Google, YouTube, retargeting on all the platforms. We're doing local search. We're doing organic SEO. We're optimizing their website. We're doing posting. We're doing blogging. We're doing all these things, right, for that legal entity. But then we'll also do billboard, The only thing we're not doing, for like legal clients is print.
And why?
Like newspaper type print.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of a dead end?
For the most part. I mean, the only people I see using print anymore that seems to work out is people targeting like maybe 65 plus aged people.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be generally it's for people even not necessarily 65, but I mean kind of more into like 70s range. And it's going to be stuff like in-home care services, cleaners, facilities for storage if people have to move into like a care facility or something like that. So those are the kinds of things that I see working in print right now. That's about it. Honestly, I haven't seen much. I've had a lot of people test it because they just, it's good to test stuff once in a while. We'll test an ad here and there. We don't get anything out of them.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And I think that's one of the reasons why print newspapers and periodicals have had such a challenging time lately trying to stay afloat. It's all dependent on ad revenue. Let me ask you kind of as a penultimate question here, as a broader question. Given what we're going through with COVID-19, with political unrest and generally a chaotic world, how can the average business owner maintain some kind of equilibrium and say, look, if I need to survive this crazy uncertain time period that we're in, or if they're even worse off, how can I reboot my business and come back? How would you advise them?
So the first thing is to determine if what you're doing is still viable over the long term. So if you have, say, a tiny restaurant space, you're in a lot of trouble because you will never be able to pack people into the capacity you used to. And if you need to keep that restaurant at 70% capacity at peak times to make money, you're not going to be able to do it anymore. So you're basically out of business. So that's when you have to think about, how can I take the assets that I have and convert those and pivot, not necessarily my entire business, but pivot my offerings. And maybe that could be something like takeout. And takeout's great, but you got to be more than just like curbside pickup. You need to be on all of the platforms, all the food delivery platforms. And I think one kind of opportunity that restaurants might be missing a bit is that you don't necessarily have to make your whole menu available to everybody on every service. So just make your most profitable things available through the platforms that charge you money. Right?
Yeah.
Because then you can kind of make back that difference. And also restaurants, I mean, they really need to be pushing, because when you went to a restaurant before, a lot of times they made that money on like, beer and wine sales and sodas and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't order those on takeout. So you want to try and structure your deals to include more margin. Just like if you were, if you go to like a Best Buy or something like that, you would go in, you'd buy a computer, and they'd be like, oh, well, you need a cable for your printer, and you need print cartridges, and you need this, and you need that. You need a mouse pad and all that stuff, because that product that they add on has 90% margin in it. Your computer has probably 5% margin.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they're taking it from a 5% margin deal, and they're turning it into like a 20% margin deal by adding all the accessories that have margin in them. So it doesn't, not even if you're necessarily a restaurant, but every business, if you have to do delivery or takeout, you should be saying, if I don't have enough margin in this to make it viable, how do I increase the margin? And a lot of time that's finding high margin product that you can add to package in with what you have, or how can you increase the perceived value of your product? So the value of your product is not what you pay for it plus some markup. The value is what will someone pay for it. And the perceived value is anything you can do to increase that. Maybe it's something about your product that you're going to add like instructions with it. And those instructions will make it easier for you to put it together, or, to use the product in a certain way. So you can package that in, or maybe you can advertise it as being more prestigious than another product, right? A lot of that also will depend on if your product is something that other people in your market serve or not, right? Mm-hmm. If you're selling the same thing that somebody can buy on Amazon for $10 more per unit, you've got a problem, right? Because maybe they would just walk in and buy it before because you had foot traffic, but you don't have foot traffic now. So maybe it's time to start looking at other products that you need to retail. If you have something that maybe it's too big or too heavy to ship inexpensively, then you need to advertise or let people know that, sure, you can buy this product for $20 less on Amazon, but it costs $100 to ship it because it's not prime shipping or whatever, right? So there's ways you can do that. You can also pivot delivery. So there's no rule that says you have to deliver through UPS, right? Or FedEx or somebody.
That's right.
You can hire a delivery driver, get a little bit of balloon, liability insurance, hire somebody inexpensively to do deliveries. I know a lot of our clients, we live in wine country in Oregon, and a lot of our clients, they're delivering wine now. And it used to be come to the tasting room and buy some wine while you're here. And over the COVID time, they were doing wine deliveries. Yeah. You can do future things for people. Like you can say, hey, if you buy this now, we will give you this later. So an example is, I'm a member of a gym here, and it's like a gym, and they have a bunch of extra facilities and stuff on it. And one of the things that they have there is a spa. What they said was, if you keep your membership paying every month while we're closed, or while we're just, partially reopening, every month you keep it, we'll give you $100 spa credit.
It's a pretty good idea.
And so they're getting the money right now, and then they use the credit later, but they make 80% margin on spa products. So that $100 spa credit's only costing them $20 for you to pay your $100 a month membership. So there's lots of ways that you can gain margin for future possibilities. And another thing is, I think every business kind of turned on Facebook again and suddenly said, well, we got to reach somebody because we're broke and we don't have any foot traffic. So we're just going to start posting like crazy on Facebook, and suddenly realized that A, they're not very good at it, and B, they're not getting any reach anymore. Right. And I think there's something to be said for making posts that are something not necessarily what you want to tell them, but what other people want to hear from you. And then putting a little bit of ad money behind that. Hit the boost button. I know a lot of people complain about boosting, but especially if you're like a restaurant, your retail, something like that, figure out how far someone will drive to go to your place. Draw that circle on Facebook. Say, I want a 5-mile circle around my business, and I'll boost it for $2 a day for 2 weeks or whatever it is. And always keep a couple posts with a couple dollars a day running just to keep the people in your local area aware of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably, I don't know, 3 businesses within 5 miles of me doing that out of 1,200,
Yeah.
So
And
nobody else is doing it.
yeah. And you'll almost immediately start to see some traction of some degree, because like you said, the smaller competitors or the ones who are just not tech savvy won't do that by doing what these others won't do.
Yeah, a couple of bucks a day can go a long way.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah, especially with Facebook.
to break the budget, right?
No, I agree totally. Well, listen, I think you gave us some really, really good tidbits of wisdom here. Do you have any final thoughts? Any questions that perhaps you wish I'd asked you?
So I think probably the biggest thing to remember is that you want to try and connect with the local business groups and associations where you live, because a lot of them will have access to resources that you don't normally get. A good example, I live in Hillsborough. I work with the Small Business Executive Council here, and the Chamber of Commerce here offers free hand sanitizer to businesses so that they can have it available for their staff and customers. They have discounted places you can go to get PPE like face masks and gloves and stuff like that. The city has resources. Our county has resources, and all of those things we can get through business organizations or through the Chamber of Commerce. And, just go to their website and poke around. You don't have to become a member and all this stuff right away. You can just kind of go check it out. I am a big fan of being a member of the local Chamber of Commerce for one, the SEO benefit, because you get listed on their website, right? So that's always good. It's great local SEO backlink for your website. But also, you can they have almost all the networking events are on Zoom now. So you can go online, talk about your business, or at least, show your face and get access to things like grant applications and help with getting your PPP loan forgiveness done, or, they have presentations on all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of local resources. You don't have to be alone running your business.
I think those are great ideas. And I really appreciate your food for thought here, Matt. How can people get in touch with you to learn more, or if they want to engage your services?
Sure. So my business is Hook SEO Digital Marketing, and it's hookseo.com, or you can listen to me on the host of the Digital Marketing Masters podcast, which you can find wherever you're listening to a podcast right now.
Okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time, and I had a blast talking to you. And thank you again, and stay safe, and please stick around for another minute or two. And for those out there watching or listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rebooting Business. And please give this a thumbs up or positive review if you've enjoyed this. Thank you, everybody, and take care.
You've been listening to Rebooting Business, the podcast for, about, and by America's small business owners who are ready to reboot and rebuild businesses in a post-COVID-19 world. To learn more about rebooting your business or be a guest on the podcast, please visit www.dms.blue today.
Thanks, Dave.